some nations have historically fought for land against other countries. Dutch history, among others, showed how humankind can solve the most challenging problems, such as defeating nature and claiming land from the ocean. So watch this video to learn more about an impossible task the Dutch people have accomplished to build what is known now as one of the most prosperous countries in the world, the Netherlands. The word Netherlands means a low-lying country, which indicates that the country is geographically located below the sea level. In fact, 26% of the country lies below sea level, creating long-term and short-term problems. In the long run, scientists warn that countries below sea level may soon disappear due to climate change. Thus, the world is pondering, when will the Netherlands disappear? And speaking of the present day, the Netherlands is at a high risk of flooding. According to government officials, the water level in the Markermeer Lake, located northeast of Amsterdam, has reached an extremely high level. This has raised concerns about the possibility of flooding. Consequently, teams are on standby to take action if the flood risk increases. The situation is particularly critical near Edam, where the water level in the lake has risen to 36 centimeters above the normal level. In response, measures such as the use of sandbags are being implemented in Monnikendam, Volendam and Voorde to help reinforce the dikes and prevent water from entering the most low-lying residential areas. The authorities are closely monitoring the situation and will take further action if necessary to ensure the safety of the residents in the affected areas. But judging the problems the Netherlands has today is nothing that the country historically accomplished. This is what the Netherlands looked like in the 1850s. And this is what the country looks like today. However, for some, it would be shocking to know that the Dutch land reclamation reform started in the 14th century, and 17% of the land has been reclaimed. Historically, the Zuiderzee was a former inlet of the North Sea that occupied a significant portion of the Netherlands from the 13th to the 20th century, covering an area of approximately 2,000 square miles, which is 5,000 square kilometers. The Zuiderzee was separated from the North Sea by an arc of former sandflats, today known as the West Frisian Islands. This inlet played a vital role in the history of the Netherlands, serving as a major waterway for trade, fishing and transportation. However, the Zuiderzee was also responsible for several devastating floods, which led to the construction of the Afsluitdijk, a major dam that effectively closed off the Zuiderzee from the North Sea and transformed it into a freshwater lake known as IJsselmeer. Today, IJsselmeer is an essential source of freshwater for the Netherlands and is a popular destination for recreational activities such as sailing, windsurfing and fishing. This stunning aerial view of the Netherlands reveals the incredible extent to which humans have transformed the natural environment. The tan-colored areas visible in the image are, in fact, land that was once submerged under the North Sea, visible as dark blue water. Over the centuries, the Dutch have reclaimed vast swathes of this land by constructing dikes and pumping out water from behind them. The large dike visible at the entrance to the bay has created a shallow, brackish lake from what was once an estuary. In the southwest corner of the image, you can see some of the most recently reclaimed land, known as polders. These areas were once entirely underwater, but have been drained and transformed into fertile agricultural land. The process of reclaiming the land from the sea is a complex one that involves extensive pumping and drainage systems, as well as the careful cultivation of plants to remove moisture and salt from the soil. Once the land has been drained and prepared, it takes around 15 years before it's ready for planting. The Dutch have been reclaiming land from the sea in this way since the 12th century, and in total, they've reclaimed over 7,800 square kilometers of land. While the Dutch are perhaps the most famous practitioners of land reclamation, this technique is used worldwide. In some cases, cities have expanded by simply filling in low-lying coastal areas. This method has been used to significant effect in cities like Venice, Boston, and Tokyo. Finally, in the lower left of the image, you can see barrier islands with pristine white beaches, which form a natural line of defense against the sea. One of the most fascinating facts about the story of defeating the sea is that technology has been changing. Since the 14th century, smaller strips of land have been reclaimed by filling with sand or other types of land materials. This was usually done near urban and harbour areas, where the need for more space was pressing. For instance, Amsterdam and Rotterdam were among the cities expanding in this manner. The development of windmills for pumping water in the 15th century was a significant milestone in land reclamation. With this technology, it became possible to drain substantial bodies of water and create polders, low-lying areas surrounded by embankments, thereby keeping the water out. The first steam-powered watermill was put to use in 1787. This marked a significant shift in the way land reclamation was done. It allowed for greater efficiency, speed, and scale, making it possible to reclaim even more land from the sea. The use of steam-powered watermills continued to grow in popularity, and they became a common sight in many coastal regions worldwide. The satellite images reveal some fascinating details about the topography of the region. As per the images, the water appears blue-black in color, while the vegetation appears red. The highly reflective areas, like pavement or bare soil, appear light blue or blue-green. It's interesting to note that the city of Amsterdam can be seen in the lower left part of the images. However, what's even more intriguing is the history of the region. Prior to 1932, the area was known as the Zuiderzee, a saltwater inlet of the North Sea. But in just a few decades, the Dutch managed to transform almost 2,000 square kilometers of the Zuiderzee into blocks of usable land, known as polders. The process of transforming the land was not an easy task. In 1932, the Dutch constructed a dike across the mouth of the Zuiderzee which created IJsselmeer. This dike can be seen in the upper middle section of the main images. The fresh water from the IJssel River helped flush out the salt water, thus creating a lake. Between 1930 and 1968, dikes were erected around 5 portions of the IJsselmeer, and the polders were drained using pumps. The reeds, which naturally grow on the former sea bottom, were allowed to grow to help dry out the soil. Transpiration moved water into the air faster than evaporation alone would. Once the soil was sufficiently dried, the reeds were cleared and colza was planted. Colza, which is related to cabbage and turnips, was then cleared, and grain crops were planted. The polders were cultivated for up to 5 years before the land was ready for commercial production. The land was then leased to commercial farmers, or towns were built. It's worth mentioning that the first of the 5 polders, Vijeringermeer, located in the northwest, was diked directly from the sea, not just from IJsselmeer. It was dry for 2 years before the mouth of the Zuiderzee was closed off. However, a project of this magnitude has met fierce resistance from nature and caused social protest. In 1953, the North Sea flood occurred. The scale of the devastating flooding that occurred in the past is hard to fathom. In England alone, the floodwaters breached over 1,200 sea defences, resulting in the flooding of approximately 140,000 acres of land. The situation was so dire that over 32,000 people were forced to evacuate their homes in a matter of hours. The damage was extensive, with over 24,000 properties affected and a staggering 46,000 livestock killed. The human cost was also significant, with 307 people losing their lives in the floods. The Netherlands also suffered greatly during the flooding, with around 100,000 people evacuated and approximately 340,000 acres of land flooded. The damage was severe, with over 47,300 buildings being damaged and 30,000 livestock losing their lives. The loss of life was also significant, with 1,836 people losing their lives in the flood. And the social discontent. The marker word polder a planned land reclamation project was abandoned and ultimately replaced by the Marker Lake, a vast body of freshwater now surrounded by a peculiar silhouette of dikes and dams. While the reclamation of other Zuiderzee polders between 1930 and 1970 went smoothly and without much controversy, the Markerwaard faced significant societal resistance, which sparked a heated national debate about the project's future. Despite numerous attempts to push the project forward, the resistance proved too strong, and the reclamation was officially called off in 1990, leaving the Markerwaard in its current state. In the end, the Dutch themselves stopped the Great Land Reclamation, but it would be safe to say that they solved the impossible problem.